thank you all so much for those of you who have made time to join us today on this hot Friday. I hope everyone is staying cool today and safe out there. My name is Diana Brennan. I am the Communications Director for the Food Bank of Contra, Costa, and Solano. And I've only been here just over 4 months now, so I've just spent the last few months learning, and I have to say I was really excited and blown away by the turnout for today's town hall when we put out the notification that we'd be hosting this today. The response from amazing donors and sponsors, foundations, and volunteers who have made time to be here today and hear what the food bank has been up to as the last few months. And we've also been joined by representatives from a number of local elected officials' offices, and I wanted to thank them for making time. I'm not sure if they're all on yet, but I believe Rebecca Roberts from Congressman Mike Thompson's office was joining us, Tigran Agdanian from Congressman John Garamendi's office, Ryan Thomas Brown from Congressman Mark DeSanye's office, Susanna Meyer from Senator Steve Glazer's office, Samantha Italde from Assemblymember Tim Grayson's office, Uche Uwahemo from Assemblymember Buffy Wicks's office, as well as Matthew Wright from Assemblymember Rebecca Bauer-Kahan, Rita Durgan from Assemblymember Cecilia Aguiar Curry, Don Morrow from Contra Costa Supervisor Chair Diane Burris, Don Pruitt from Contra Costa Supervisor Candace Anderson, and Concord Mayor Tim McGallion, I believe, was hoping to join us as well. So thanks also for making time to join us. And we thought this was a good time as California begins to open up after the pandemic to really bring together some of our key supporters to share what the food bank has learned over the last year and how we're continuing to fight and lead the fight against hunger in Contra Costa and Solano counties in the coming year. To that end, we have brought together a couple of the key members of our leadership team to share with you what they've been, experiencing throughout COVID, as well as now that we're starting to all look ahead a bit, what we expect for the food bank in the future. We've been joined today by Joel Sostrom, the president and CEO of the Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano, Kim Castaneda, our VP of Development and Communications, as well as Nora Nichols, our programs director. So thanks y'all for making time today. We are hoping to have time for questions at the end. I know some were submitted in advance and I've jotted those down. If you do have other questions, feel free to put them in the chat or put those in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. If you'd like to throw in a question at the end or speak towards the end if we have time, you can raise your hand and I will unmute you so you can share your question or your thought with the group. So Joel, we'll go ahead and start with you. Your first year at the helm of the food bank has certainly been challenging, to say the least. Can you talk about what you've learned over the last year and how you're feeling as things are starting to return to normal in some of our local communities?
Well, sure. And thank you, Diana. Can you hear me okay? Well, I just could not be more proud of our staff, our leadership team, our board, our volunteers, our donors, our elected officials, and our community in how we've been able to respond to this crisis this last year. I mean, we were able to, really pivot our services and adapt to the environment, like the drive-through distributions that many of you have probably seen. And we also quadrupled our food purchases, because of supporters like many on this call, allowing us to immediately, meet the dramatically increased need out there safely and efficiently. I mean, we're still serving some 270,000 clients every month, which is 100,000 more than before the pandemic. So, before the pandemic, our country had about 35 million food insecure people. And just recently, the food bank, the Feeding America CEO stated that we're all going to work really hard for the next 5 years just to get back to those pre-pandemic levels. And there was a big need out there before the pandemic. So I know hope's not a strategy, but I hope that it's not going to take 5 years to get back to the pre-pandemic levels, and we can get back to, really continuing to lead the fight to end hunger. If that helps. Yeah.
You bet. And as we're moving through this tail end of COVID and beginning to really look ahead after the frenzy of the last year, what's on the horizon for the food bank as we're starting to move into this new fiscal year and post-pandemic times? What is the leadership and the board? What is everyone working on?
Well, I've been working really closely with our leadership team and collaborating with the board on building a 3-year strategic plan. And I'm really excited about the impact that we can have in our communities over the next 3 years. And I actually thought that I would share today a couple of those 3 emerging priorities within that strategic plan. So if you could bring up that PowerPoint, I'd talk to those just a little bit. But these 3 primary strategic priorities starts with empowering our agencies to close the gap to hunger more effectively. You may not know, those on the call, that we have over 250 partner agencies in our 2 counties that we work with, whether it's pantries, soup kitchens, colleges, schools, faith-based organizations. And collectively, they distribute almost half of the food that our food bank distributes. And we're committed to strengthening the capacity and capability of these very important partners to safely distribute not just more food, but even better food in the years ahead. And we support these agencies certainly with nutritious food, with food credits, with safety training and other trainings. And just recently, we actually completed a round of agency enhancement grants. And these are specifically grants to help them build their capacity. And we were actually able to share and fund over $250,000 worth of enhancement grants with our agencies literally just a few weeks ago. As an example, one of those was we actually were able to fund an $18,000 walk-in cooler for one of our larger agencies. So it's just really exciting to be able to support these partners and as they step up to serve our neighbors in need. So the second strategic priority was improve health outcomes through nutritious food. So this is not just more food as we've seen, but also even better food. And one thing we've learned through this pandemic is that the people we serve often suffer from chronic health problems, usually because of underlying issues of poverty and lack of access to nutritious food. One thing we're real proud of is that about 50% of the food that we distribute is actually, fresh fruits and vegetables. So even through the increased volumes of COVID, we've been really close to that 50% in the fruits and vegetables. And we really think that that's just more nutritious food, more interesting and appealing to our clients. And so in addition to the produce, we're also looking to add more dairy and more proteins. Again, not just more food, but better food. The last strategic priority we're working on is leveraging technology and data to better measure our impact. So admittedly, we're a little behind on the technology front. I know we're not alone in the nonprofit sector, but we really believe that we can, by investing in technology, will increase the data that we have and leverage to be even more efficient. If you looked at, if you were able to see our annual report, our impact report, we were able to see that 96 cents of every dollar actually got to the table, and we're really proud of that. But better data will enable us to better serve our community and be even more efficient and be able to better measure our impact. So that's part of our strategic priorities for the next 3 years. I also want to talk a little about disaster relief. So I think you've got another slide for me on disaster relief. And as we all know, we are now entering the fire season. It's kind of sad that we have a fire season now. And it appears that the risk this year is as high as it's ever been. And so we're really focused on making sure that we're prepared for the disaster relief. We're focusing first on our partnerships and collaboration. As an affiliate of Feeding America, we were actually this year designated to be the hub food bank for all of California for communications and for a good part of inventory. And so we have that role with Feeding America. We also work closely with Red Cross, certainly with our counties, PG&E on utility shutoffs. And so just many partners, we want to make sure that there's good communication, good collaboration, so that collectively we can have our best possible response to these pending disaster relief. Of course, we want to have readily available inventory. And I'm sitting here in our new Watney facility, and I'll save a little of that for later. But we now have more capacity to carry more and appropriate inventory. So certainly things like water and other beverages, snacks, easy to open items, non-cook items. We actually just received 3 truckloads of product from Feeding America as being designated as the central distribution for the state, and anticipate more, especially in waters. We also just started, this is kind of fun, creating these kitchen free boxes. Our team just recently came up with, it's designed to be 3 meals, 2 snacks for one person for one day. And it's a small box, about 8 by 8. And we are putting these together. It also includes 2 bottled waters, a sanitizer, utensils, and even a mask right now. And our intent is to, within the next couple of weeks, have our volunteers help us assemble some 10,000 boxes so that we have these ready and available for potential disaster. I also just wanted to mention the ongoing support after the disaster, because many may not know on this call that, we stay in support long after the Red Cross and other support groups leave. I mean, we're still supporting the Paradise Fire communities, over 2 years after those fires. So, I feel like this global pandemic has just also been a very long effort of disaster relief in and of itself. And but we're ready to and ready to support our communities, whether it be fires, earthquakes, or other disasters going forward. Wherever our neighbors in need us to be there, we'll be there. So I hope that helps.
Oops. Great. Thank you so much, Joel. Next, I would like to introduce Nora Nichols. Nora oversees all of our teams out there on the front lines, really delivering food and getting food into the hands of our clients, as well as our agency partners. So Nora, your team has, like I said, been on the front lines of dramatically increasing our services, adapting our programs to be safe and make sure we are getting out food safe and efficiently. So can you talk about, maybe a couple highlights of what you've learned over the last year and what you'll take away from it?
Yeah, I mean, it has been quite a year for sure, as Joel said. Our team has worked so well together, and we've really been able to scale and learn and innovate. But something that has really been impactful is just seeing the need increase, seeing the folks that were arriving at our drive-through distributions with Uber and Lyft stickers on the backs of their car. First time they've ever faced food insecurity probably in their lives, and being there and being ready to serve them and being able to distribute food to them. And we constantly rethought, what locations were good, how we could get more food out into the community, how we can improve access points, using our existing programs to get out more food. So we focused on all of those things during the pandemic. So it really did teach us that, a lot about how we can innovate and do something new. I think with our drive-through distributions, it's allowed us to realize that, there's certain folks in our communities where this model makes sense. So it's something that we're going to continue with. It takes some anonymity. It gives people some anonymity in getting food. And it also, for our seniors and for our disabled folks in the community, it gives them access. And that's what we're really interested in, is improving access to food in our communities. So we've learned a lot that way. We've also learned, our partnerships are just so key. So working with government, community-based organizations, our agency partners, all of those partnerships through the pandemic were so important and just continue to grow. So it really reinforced our place in the community and our place in the community as being a leader in the fight against hunger.
Great. And as Joel was saying, we're starting to really look ahead and plan and really look at what worked and what we learned from the last year. So what are you most excited about as we continue to fight against hunger in the community in terms of programs and agency partnerships?
Well, certainly be good to get to some normalcy back. We have wonderful programs, especially our school pantry program, our senior programs that are so vital to our community. And we really needed to change that model this year. For our seniors, we had to run our senior food program with spacing and masks. And our seniors, not only, our senior program is folks come twice a month to receive groceries and food, but it's also a social time for those folks to get out of the house and see community members and see their friends. When we talk to our senior food participants, some of them have been participating in that program for 10 years. So it was really heartbreaking when folks were not able to attend that program. So we're looking forward to our numbers increasing in that program. We're looking forward to making that program better by increasing the amount of protein and better foods that we're distributing out at that program. We're also really excited about our schools getting back online. So through the pandemic, we work with our school districts, getting food out and produce out, and working with them with their breakfast and lunch programs. But now that school's going to hopefully be back in session in the fall, our school pantries will be back in full effect. So we're looking at the schools and the school community and really taking a look at the schools that are most in need and seeing if we can expand our school pantry programs. So that's really exciting. Also, to Joel's point, looking at data and making data-driven decisions. So, looking into the future and really understanding what our impact is and using data to make better decisions about, where we need to be in growing our programs and our reach in the community.
I know I'm not the only parent hoping school is back full time next year, but it's certainly, as you and I were talking earlier, Nora, the last year has really laid bare that, there are a lot of kids who wouldn't eat if there weren't food at their schools and without school meal programs. And we're supporting those even more with fresh produce and available pantry food at many school locations. So I know that's been a really positive takeaway that we'll carry into the next year. So thank you so much. Kim Castaneda is also joining us. Kim oversees departments that work with some of our most valued supporters, donors, and volunteers. Kim, I know you've worked so closely with these folks that have really come to our aid when we needed it most. What has surprised you about the last year, would you say?
Gosh, so much has surprised me. I think that just like with our clients, the increase in need was a surprise. I think the way that the community rallied around us and the support that we got, not just in volunteers, but in funds and so forth, was a surprise. I mean, I knew that they would, like they always do, but just the amount that came in, like the amount of people that just were right away. We rallied as a team and said, okay, this has happened. I mean, we're used to disasters, right? This organization is used to disasters. It happens. We're all on board, and it's just move forward fast, right? But this was a huge one, right? We knew it was going to be huge. It was going to be a huge community. I mean, it's not just like one community, it's all of us, right? So we were like, oh my gosh, start making phone calls, right? But we didn't have to because they were coming to us. And it was just so, I don't know, uplifting. And then for my team, as we went through this whole year, it was highly stressful for our whole organization. It's stressful personally, just COVID for everybody, including our donors, right? But we got to sit in this office and in this place where we got to see the best in humanity and the people coming together. And, I want to shout it from the rooftops, I would post on social media, you have no idea. Like, everybody's coming together. It may seem like people aren't coming together, but they are, and you can't see it, but I can see it. And it just helped me personally. It helped my team to just go through this. I know it helped our organization. So I think that was I want to cry thinking about it. It was just so amazing.
Well, and I know it also was a big weight off of everyone's minds because we didn't have to worry, could we make these changes? Would we have enough food? It felt like we could make the decisions that we needed to make because we had the backing to do that.
Yeah, we were able to react quickly. Joel talked about the agency enhancements grants. We were able to help others.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a great place to be.
And what are you looking forward to, Kim, in the coming year as we start to move forward from your side of the business?
Well, I think this just all that's happened this last year has brought food and hunger in America to the forefront. And so I think this is an opportunity for us to really innovate and all of our strategic priorities that we're working towards. I think we have this opportunity with the community support to really move it forward and move that impact and make that change that we've always wanted to. And just now, even more so, have the resources to do that. We have the community support to be able to do that. And just like Nora just said, with, our seniors and them getting back together and some things coming back to normal, she talked about seniors sitting there, they come to this, they've been doing it for the last 10 years, right? So it's a continual ongoing thing. We've had new people, if someone's going 10 years, it's not going to stop anytime soon. And now that we've, gathered all these community support and we have all these people with us, I'm just really hopeful about what we can do and the impact we can make in our community.
Great. And one of the questions we had submitted in advance was regarding volunteers. And obviously they played a huge factor in our ability to respond. And we did see some loss early on in COVID, I know, from volunteers. And one of the questions was, are we seeing volunteers come back now that things are now that people are vaccinated and people are able to come back? Are we seeing that in our volunteer
Yes.
shifts?
So what was really another surprise and interesting was that, we have a lot of corporate groups and big groups that come and they, and it's helpful, right? Volunteers are huge for us. They do what our hours are about 55 full-time employees with volunteer hours. So it's kind of mandatory. We need to have them, right? We wouldn't be able to do what we do efficiently without them. And so when COVID hit, a lot of those corporate groups had to pull back, and that's like 30 volunteers at a time. And we're like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? When we put the call out, individuals just came in droves. And there was just tons, and it just filled in the space along with the National Guard. But we were able to make it up. So I think that, yes, the volunteers are back in our corporate groups now that, some things are lifted, they're coming back. All of our like Rotaries and, church groups and stuff are starting to come back. And we're just really excited to have them back. We've missed them this last year, and excited about the new volunteers that we've gotten over the time.
Great. And thanks to the person who submitted that question as well. Kim, thank you so much. Joel, on top of working through a pandemic and another massive fire season and learning your way on the ropes early in your term, the food bank made an exciting move to our new Fairfield warehouse within the last several months. So can you fill this group in on the new location and why it's so important to the food bank?
Thank you, Diana. I am so excited to be sitting here in our new Watney location, just a half mile from our old warehouse. When I joined 19 months ago, we were already behind on capacity. I heard that from the board. I heard that from Larry Sly as he was taking his well-deserved retirement. He said, Joel, I really apologize. We're about 3 to 5 years behind on capacity building. I was brand new. I didn't know what to say, except thank you for that opportunity. And I'm sure we'll get to it. Little did I know that just a few months later, we were going to have shelter in place. We were going to see this tremendous increase in need in our community. And we very quickly actually were at one point 4 offsite storage facilities, just trying to manage the demand and safely distribute food. So with the support of the leadership team and the board, we have moved, and officially on March 29th of this last year, just a couple months ago, we were able to move into the new space you see on the screen. And it really is a blessing. It's 104,000 square feet of brand spanking new warehouse with a 33-foot ceiling, so we could stack 5 high. And if I seem excited about it, it's because I am. So a few benefits is certainly consolidating the offsite storage facilities. We did have to have outside storage and got a lot of help, including I think the Concord Mayor, Tim McGillian, is on the phone. He helped us get some additional offsite storage. And so that was extremely helpful. But in addition, now we're just starting to build an 8,600 square feet of cold storage within the facility. 8,600 square feet. It's 28 foot tall, 4 racks high. We can actually get 400 pallet positions of refrigerated food, 300 pallet positions of freezer space. And that really is going to allow us to have more, back to that, not just more food, better food, but more produce, more dairy, more proteins, all that was going to really just benefit our clients and our community. So really, really excited about that. I was just this morning walking through we talked about disaster relief. We actually have a set of racks that are set up for disaster relief inventory. So certainly a lot of waters, beverages, snack foods, easy to open. And those fancy new, really excited about the kitchen-free boxes that we're going to start assembling this next week. So, and then also the volunteer experience. Like Kim said, we are so dependent on our volunteers. And, we talked about, I think a little over the year before the pandemic, we actually had 104,000 hours of volunteer hours. That's the equivalent, as Kim said, of 54 full-time employees. That's half our staff. And while we did have some setback at the beginning of shelter in place, our volunteers have just really stepped up. And I believe last month we were actually 22% up in hours over the prior year. So we want to take this opportunity within this facility and also at Concord of revamping our volunteer experience and our volunteer centers, focus on safety, certainly productivity, but just overall making a great, comfortable experience for our volunteers. So we'll be completing that here shortly as well. So moving from 29,000 square feet to 104, just really, I'm so thankful to our board, our donors, our community, our staff for making this happen, because it's really going to allow us to have a greater impact in our communities for years to come. Yeah, the pictures you see here on the top left, it's like that was the first pallets delivered in. And after a year of work to get in this facility, I kind of look like the proud papa there, I guess. The racks on the right show the 5 high. The only disappointment was it was Dodger colors. I tried to get it Minnesota Viking colors, but that didn't work out. So, but it's a beautiful facility. Once the cold storage is complete in the late fall, I really look forward to inviting everyone on this call and more to the grand opening and a ribbon cutting, as it really is a milestone for our food bank. So very exciting.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I know we did have a few questions submitted in advance. I think the first two probably fall to Nora's bucket. One of the questions we got was, are single mothers with children able to take advantage of our services?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got a few programs out there that are specific to families with children, mothers with children. One in particular is our Food for Children program. That's been running for about 8 years now. Our main referral for that program is from WIC. So we partner with Contra, Costa, and Solano WIC. Those eligible for WIC are also eligible for that program. So folks are referred to, children are eligible for that program between the ages of 3 and 8 years old. And we have various locations in Solano and Contra Costa County where we run that program. And then our CPP, our community produce program, our drive-through distributions, those are open to anyone in the community, and they can participate in those. We also have over 250 partner agencies between Contra Costa and Solano. All of those partner agencies service the public, and people are able to access food through those agencies as well.
Great. And Nora, one other question we received was, have we seen a decrease in demand in terms of people we're serving each month now that maybe some folks are going back to work? I know the number, we keep, being stunned by is that we're serving an average of 270,000 people each month. That's about 100,000 more than prior to the pandemic. So have we seen much of a fall off in that number?
We've seen fluctuation. It's really interesting. I mean, I think what we've seen across all of our programming is that there's certain programs will increase one month, certain programs will decrease each month. So we have seen a little bit of slowing in terms of the numbers that we're getting at our drive-through distributions. So that may be that more people are getting back to work. That may be that there is more federal money going out to folks. So we are seeing those numbers fall a little bit. But we're still seeing our agency partners continue to see very large numbers. So we're still seeing those numbers be very high, and our community produce program those numbers continue to be strong as well.
Great, thank you. Joel, I think this question probably goes to you. Obviously poverty and hunger is tied very closely to economy and economic structure. And one of the questions was, what are some of the areas where the food bank is focused on now in terms of advocacy and legislation?
Well, I'm really proud that our organization has been very strong in advocacy, and we actually have a policy and legislative manager who keeps me informed and has me signing letters and zooming with some of the elected officials on this call. So there's a lot of important pieces out there right now, but I think if we look at the year ahead, I think that there's a lot of opportunity. We're seeing announcements from the USDA, on $6 billion more, money being put into the USDA programs. I think that some of the other federal grants and support is going to be really helpful for us. And we want to make sure that we're staying active on these items as well. Things just aren't letting up. And I think that, with whether it's the aid packages, the American Rescue Plan, these are areas that are going to help us continue to meet that need. Because as Nora said, although we see some fluctuations and some changes in our client needs, and I think with schools reopening, there's a lot to be said in the changes at the school services. It's really not letting up. And we served for the first time ever 4 million pounds distributed, 4 million pounds of food in December. I thought it was really going to lighten up. And then in March, we broke that record in 4.2 million and another 4.2 in May. So we've had 3 months of these kind of record distributions. It's going to continue. So we're going to need help to continue that. And it's certainly from donors, volunteers, but it's also from our elected officials.
And another question was, can we volunteer at the Fairfield facility now?
Yes, please. Yes,
yes, please.
We had some, I was out speaking this morning with some soldiers from the Travis Air Force Base, and it was really great to see them here. The National Guard, we said we've had for, a year, and we're so blessed to have had that, their help, but that's supposed to end here in the next month. So we have volunteers active here. We're opening up more shifts on the weekends here in Fairfield. So that there's a lot of shifts available. So please check out our website under the volunteer pieces, and we can use your help.
Absolutely. We will put all volunteers to work. That's for sure. Joel, when I joined the food bank, one of the things I was really intrigued by and continue to be is the grocery recovery program. We put a huge amount of effort into, picking up food from, I think it's over 130 retail partners to redistribute back out into the community. Can you talk a little bit about that in case folks aren't familiar with it?
Yeah, food recovery is really important to our food bank and our clients because we received and recovered more than 4 million pounds of food last year. So you can call that almost 10% of what we were able to distribute. And so we've got wonderful partners out there. Some of the larger chains with Raley's and Safeway and Whole Foods and Trade. We've got a number of larger chains, but also smaller grocery chains in particular. It also has the real benefit that it's good for our environment and landfills and just not seeing food wasted. So, and the food that we have, not 100% of it is servable. And so we have to, we use volunteers to help us sort. We have staff that helps us sort. But really most of the food that we get is really good quality food. A lot of times it's the proteins, which are also expensive, by the way. And so that helps us with that as well. So, some people on the call may know about SB 1383, which is reducing landfills. And so we're working very closely with our counties and with our cities to make sure that we're doing our part to be part of that solution in receiving that food and getting it out into our community.
Great. Another question just came in. Are we keeping the Concord location in addition to the new Solano County location? Yeah, I can answer that. I think quickly, yes, we are. We've always had a location in Fairfield. This was just a move for us, and we will continue to maintain both locations actively with volunteers and lots of activity at both. Feel free. I haven't seen any other questions submitted. If you have one or you'd like to make a comment, you can certainly also raise your hand. Do food recovery efforts include farmers markets?
No, we haven't done that to date. Part of it, I think, is the scale. If we're at an individual farmers market, there's just probably not the scale for us to pick up, but we do work with some local farmers and other outlets that will provide a more steady stream of nutritious food.
And I know also folks who take advantage, or excuse me, that's the wrong wording, who utilize CalFresh, we also help folks get signed up for CalFresh, often are able to use their benefits at farmers markets, depending on the farmers market, with their EBT cards as well, which is a nice benefit of that program for accessing fresh produce and vegetables. One other question we had come in was, is there any other plans for the building in Concord? Are we making any updates or changes here?
I can take that one too. We're very, very pleased that it was, 9 months ago already, that we have a second building on our property and we own the Concord facilities. And there was a 10,000 square foot building that many people know across the parking lot from our main headquarter building and warehouse. And we had that rented out for many, many years. And as that lease came to a close, we were able to retake that space last fall. And so what it has is about 12 additional staff seating positions, offices and cubes. And now we are moving our volunteer center over there and have essentially moved it over to that new building. So it's about 7,500 square feet of warehouse. I really love it because it separates the volunteers from the main warehouse. From a safety aspect, it's certainly a lot better. For those that have volunteered, we have boxing lines where we set up the big long boxing lines. We don't have to tear it down and set it up. It's there essentially semi-permanently. As I mentioned earlier, we're also going to be building kind of a volunteer lounge, if you will, and just making it a little bit more comfortable and informative with some video and other safety, as well as just, showing pictures and movies of some of our client distributions. Because there's many people that have volunteered at the warehouse, but have actually never, been to a distribution. So we have volunteer activities one more time in both out at distributions and in the warehouse. But we've moved that at our facility in Concord. So we have more space, safer space, and a more productive space.
Yeah, as fulfilling as it is to bag carrots and box up those vegetables in cans. There's nothing like putting a box of food in somebody's trunk and watching them drive off with it. I got to do that early in my my time there, and it's a really fulfilling. I can't wait to get back out there again and do that. One of the other questions we just had is, have we ever considered offering cleaning or personal item boxes? I know sometimes we offer diapers. Just wondering if we ever offer other items, soap, laundry detergent, things of that nature. Nora or Joel wants to tackle that one.
We are focused on food. Food is kind of our primary mission that we are focused on. If we do get donations of household items, those do go out to our agency partners. So we do take them, but where our primary focus is food items. Joel, do you want to add anything to that?
We've done some diapers, but again, it's not in our core. I will say that through the course of COVID, we were able to secure and distribute a lot of sanitizing, sanitizers, masks, other protective gear. And so we did stock up on quite a bit of that. We're able to distribute that primarily to our agencies, less to individuals. But that was one way we were able to support.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. These are great questions, everyone. Thank you so much. If you have anything else or would like to ask any questions or throw in anything else, got a couple more minutes, or we can wrap up a little early. We sped through this, so with a lot of good information, and I really appreciate you all making the time to join us today. I'm also happy. I will throw my email address in the chat box for everybody in case anyone has had questions or would like to get in touch with anybody from this group after the town hall. I'm happy to direct those questions or put folks in touch. I know we had some questions about volunteering and information, so I'm happy to pass that along. So, well, thank you all so much for joining us today. I really appreciate everyone's time who chimed in today. And more than that, we certainly appreciate your support. We couldn't do this work without the community, without donors, volunteers, the commitment from local politicians, our foundations and corporate funders. It simply wouldn't be possible. So we are so glad to share that work with you today. We hope to see you all at the food bank or a distribution site very soon, now that we're starting to get to see one another again. And please let us know if you have any questions or if we can provide any more information. Otherwise, stay hydrated and have a wonderful day. Thank you all so much for coming.